Right now, there's a voice in your head. Maybe it's reading these words back to you, and if you're like most people, you've never once questioned whether everyone else has one too. Here's what's strange. Most people assume their inner experience is basically the same as everyone else's. That quiet narration running through your mind while you do the dishes, or drive to work, or lie awake at night, that's just what thinking is. A universal feature of being human. But one researcher has spent decades collecting evidence that this assumption is wrong. And once you hear what he found, you can't quite look at your own mind the same way again. Russell Hurlburt is a psychologist at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. For roughly 50 years, he studied what's actually happening in people's minds, moment to moment. The method he invented to study this is deceptively simple. It's called descriptive experience sampling. A person carries a small random beeper through an ordinary day. When it beeps, unpredictably, they stop and immediately write down whatever was in their mind the instant before it went off. Not what they usually think about. Not their general sense of themselves. The raw content of that one instant, captured before conscious editing, kicks in. What Hurlburt found in those captured moments is the reason this video exists. Most people, without ever examining it, believe inner speech is basically constant. In one study, participants estimated they spent about 72% of their time thinking in words. But when their actual moments were sampled throughout the day, the real figure averaged just 18%. That gap between what people believed about their own minds and what was actually happening inside them is enormous, and it shows up again and again across the research. So for the average person, verbal inner speech, actual words heard internally, is happening maybe a fifth of the time. The rest of the time, something else is going on. Images, feelings, a wordless sense of knowing something, thinking that has no sound at all. Now here's the part worth holding on to. That 20% is only the average. The range between individuals is staggering. In one study, the frequency of inner speech ranged from 0% to 75% across participants, 0 to 75. Some people, sampled repeatedly over multiple days, showed almost no verbal inner speech at all. Their thoughts arrived as images or bodily sensations or something researchers call unsymbolized thinking, a thought directly present without words, images, or any other symbol attached to it. Just a pure, immediate sense of knowing something. On the other end, some people had inner speech present in nearly every single sampled moment, a near constant verbal stream narrating experience as it happened. Hurlburt himself put it plainly. The range of frequencies runs from 0 to 100%. 0% is common. 100% is common. These aren't rare outliers. These are real documented patterns in how different minds actually work. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, in the best possible way. If the voice in your head is the thing that feels most like you, the part that reasons, narrates, judges, reflects, what does it mean that some people don't have it? Are they thinking less? Experiencing less? The answer, based on everything researchers have found, is no. Scientists proposed the term anaralia in 2021 to describe the absence of inner speech and other auditory imagery. A related term, anendophasia, appeared in a 2024 study in the journal Psychological Science, describing specifically the absence of an inner narrating voice. People without one still think, still reason, still feel, still make complex decisions. The machinery of cognition is intact. It's just running differently. Think about that. There wasn't even a word for this until a few years ago. For most of the history of psychology, the assumption was that everyone had roughly the same inner verbal experience, that the monologue was simply part of what a mind was. It turns out that assumption was never tested, and when it finally was, it collapsed. There's a neurological piece to this too. Brain imaging shows that inner speech activates many of the same regions used for speaking out loud, including areas tied to language production and to processing the sound of speech. When you hear a thought in words, your brain is doing something genuinely similar to talking, simulating your own voice without ever producing it. For people whose minds don't do that, or do it far less, something else is filling that space, and researchers are still mapping out exactly what. There's one more thread worth pulling. Anaralia shows a strong association with aphantasia, the inability to form mental images. Many people who lack an inner voice also report weak or absent visual imagery in their mind. which suggests this isn't just one dial being turned down. For some people, the entire internal sensory landscape, sound and image alike, simply works differently. Here's the part that matters most, and it circles back to where this started. The real finding isn't just that inner speech varies, it's how badly people misjudge their own minds in the first place. Most subjects, even on their first day of sampling, aren't good at accurately capturing what their inner experience actually contains. People hold strong, confident beliefs about what's happening inside their own heads, and those beliefs turn out to be built after the fact, shaped by assumptions nobody ever thought to question. You assumed everyone had a voice like yours. Everyone else assumed the same, and there was never a way to compare notes directly. Nobody can show another person what it's like inside their own head. So everyone just quietly assumed the default was shared. When people encounter this research for the first time, the reaction is almost always the same. Genuine disorientation. People with a constant inner monologue are stunned to learn some people have none. People with little to no inner speech are stunned to learn others are narrating their entire day in real time, word for word. Both groups assumed they were the normal one. Both groups were right. So what does this mean for how you think about your own mind? That question doesn't have a clean answer yet. What this research has established is that the voice that feels like the most essential, most intimate part of your thinking is not a universal feature of human consciousness. It's one way a mind can work, a common one, but not the only one, and not even as constant as most people who have it assume. Thought is bigger than language. Whatever is actually happening in your mind right now, words, images, feeling, or something harder to name, it is thinking. It counts. And the fact that it might look nothing like what's happening in the mind sitting right next to you isn't a flaw in either one of you. It's simply how varied human consciousness turns out to be, and science has only just started mapping its full shape. The next time you're doing something routine, walking, making coffee, staring out a window, pause and notice what's actually in your mind at that exact instant. Not what you usually think you think, just that one moment. You might be surprised by what you find, or, more precisely, by what you don't.